Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And today I have with me Ría Thompson-Washington, who will be joining us on our YouTube live this afternoon. Welcome, Ría. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am doing fabulously. I'm indoors. I'm keeping warm. It is great to have you here. It is great to have you here. Look at this. We're coming down to the end of the year. We're in a very pivotal period of
hmm
of the year, of our lifetimes actually. Give me a little bit of background about yourself and how you've gotten involved with what is going on right now in this country.
Cool. So, yeah, my name is Ría Thompson-Washington. I use she, her pronouns. I've been an organizer for longer than I'll admit because I look so devastatingly young.
Oh, yes.
I have been working in voting rights now for the last about 6 years. Notably, though, I was just recalling the other day that it was an Alabama Senate race about 3 years ago that got me back into organizing heavily in electoral politics in the way that I am. It
Mhm.
was, of course, after 2016, where everybody felt the same kind of crushing defeat, and I was working at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund at the time as a paralegal, and they allowed me to go to Alabama to work on the Senate race and like do poll monitoring. And on this particular evening, there was a young Black woman who came to the polls, and she came out like not having had an opportunity to vote. And I asked her, like, why didn't she have a chance to vote? She told me that she wasn't allowed because of her address. So I went back in with her and talked to the poll monitor, and she was able to cast a provisional ballot. And then we took a picture together, and the picture came up in my memories, 3 days ago. And I was thinking, like, it's so crazy that that moment reminded me of how important it is because she probably would have turned around. It was going to
Mhm.
be her first time voting. She would have turned around and not taken the opportunity because she didn't know the rules. And so I went, after that, I went and joined the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law and the Voting Rights Project as a senior national coordinator. And I started helping states build out election protection programs. And I really enjoyed that traveling around mostly southern states, helping and working with groups on the ground on how to build out programs. And so when I joined the Center for Popular Democracy this spring, I'm in the voting rights and democracy team. I thought about like what we need, like what is still needed, how do we support groups on the ground, how do we work with affiliates, and so that's really how I got here. I've been working in voting rights for a while, working as an organizer for many, many, many years,
Yes.
and just out here, trying to make sure that we build collective power
And
for
that
Black and
is
Brown
so
people.
important. And I mean,
Right.
this year was an election year, and we've seen how
Mhm.
important, that work is, really putting in the work to make sure that people understand their voting rights, people are
Mhm.
registering to vote, people are going to vote, people understand the importance of their vote. And no year shows that as much as this year. We've seen, Georgia flip blue for one.
Right.
We've seen, the presidency, and then opposed to that, we've seen how, people are still actively trying to undermine the democracy, to undermine the vote, to try to throw
Mhm.
out votes,
Right.
to try to say some votes don't count. Tell me about the important. Tell me about what's going on in Georgia, because Georgia is really on the scene right now. In the headlines.
Right.
Tell me what's going on in Georgia. What was the change this year? One, when it came to the presidency, and now as we look forward to the runoff with the Senate race.
Right. And so Georgia is in the most important position ever, right? This year, well, actually, at the beginning of the first of the new year, on January 5th, there's going to be a Senate race that is going to determine who has control of the Senate, right? And so ultimately, like the role of the New Georgia Project and the New Georgia Project Action Fund on the ground is to make sure that voters are engaged, right, in the process. We know that historically folks don't turn out for runoff, that it's usually the presidential, races that get all the attention. The reason that this is so significant is because it is the last race that is going to determine how the Congress actually works, right? Like the House has been one way for a long time. And now we're going to see if the Senate changes leadership and if that has any effects on people's lives. Like when we're thinking about, not just the vaccine from coronavirus coming, but also the care that people need, right? Like the stimulus packages. We look at other countries that are as developed as the United States, and people are getting like regular checks every month to be able to help and support and make it through this really tough time. And Americans have been expected to exist on, $1,200 for some people and $600 a week for others for amount of time. So essentially everything comes down to this moment on January 5th where
Yes.
These two senators could change the makeup of Congress.
And that is so huge. That is so huge. And what's so interesting about this entire thing is the way how we've seen what's going on with the Republican Party right now, especially in Georgia, and how that balancing act of one saying that the election was fraudulent, but also still having to have people go out to vote for
right.
These people to win those Senate seats, as well as there are others who are telling people not to vote. There's a lot
right.
going on there, very unprecedented stuff, as one would say.
Right.
What do you make of all of that hullabaloo?
It's a wild world we're living in. I'll say that. And the goal is to get people out to vote. So we're trying to counter all of the misinformation and dispel all of the disinformation, right? And we're trying to make sure that people know when they can vote. Early voting started on Monday, the 14th, and will run through the 31st. We want people to know that they can vote early. They can drop off at drop boxes, telling them where they are. We're trying to make sure that people have access to it. We're trying to push back from the state doing things like changing the hours of drop boxes instead of them being 24 hours, only being business hours in the middle of an election, like those kinds of things. So the parties can do what they like. The goal is to engage the public, the community, and say, this is why it matters to your particular life. And this is how we're going to affect change.
Tell me something. Do you for this particular upcoming runoff race, do you foresee a greater turnout for this one as opposed to other runoff races? Because historically, many runoff races, have not been, there's not really like a huge turnout for them.
Right.
Do you see this one, having, probably historical numbers as opposed to others, especially in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, I do actually. I think that because I've already seen it, right? On the first day of early voting, there was a place that had 2-hour lines to vote on the first day of early voting for a runoff. That in itself is unprecedented. So the first few days have already been like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And if we can keep this steady up, like what happened on election day in Georgia was the polls were quiet because so many people voted early that on election day, it was already a foregone conclusion, right? So we're hoping for that type of big energy and vibe, right? We want everybody to get their vote in now, vote through the ballot, vote through the box, like go ahead and get it taken care of so that when it comes to January 5th, it's only for the people who absolutely could not vote, on any other time. And for them, we want it to be a breeze. We want them to sail right through, no issues, no problems. And then everybody gets their vote counted. And then we move on and we see what the new world looks like on the other side on January 6th.
I love it. And there's something I heard during this election cycle that I never thought about before, but it was that the election day, the date of the election should be looked at as the deadline, like not the day to go and vote, like use the time before, use all the early voting, use all of that, you know what I mean?
Right.
It should be looked at as the deadline, not the day to go, but the deadline, like, that's the time.
Right.
So at that time, most people have done it, there's just the few who who have left to do it. You know,
Mhm.
that way it frees it up. It makes it very accessible for everyone. You know,
Mhm.
very that. So we're in historical times right now. Everyone is
Yeah.
watching Georgia to see what that is. Is there any holiday exceptions for when it comes to voting during this early voting period?
Well, not really, unfortunately. I mean, it's happening in the middle of holiday season, right? So,
Yeah.
in the middle of all of these like holidays for multiple communities. So, the only day of early voting in some counties is the 26th, which is the day
Hmm.
after Christmas for that community. And then the rest of it is like, 8:30 to 5 in some places. It's not the normal like 7 to 7. The
Hmm.
rules have been changed so much just for this runoff because it's a quick 6 week period.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're just going to go ahead and push ahead and try to get as many folks out to vote. We're also doing rides to the polls, if you live
Ah.
in like one of the 5 metro areas of Georgia, you can catch a ride to the poll round trip for free. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that folks can get out. So
And
yeah.
so, from being there on the ground, you are seeing that Georgians really, really are recognizing the importance of these elections, and how much this means to the
Hmm.
future of the country, right?
Absolutely, and you can see it like there's signs everywhere. Like you cannot go anywhere in Georgia without signs, billboards on the streets, signs on the streets, like on sidewalks, like everywhere you go, it literally is overflowing with the information about the vote. And so it's actually kind
OMG.
of like beautiful to watch as somebody like who works in voting rights as a voting rights
Yes.
advocate. Like this is it feels really awesome, and knowing how important this race is and seeing how excited people are. I mean, we're doing events almost every single day, right? Turning out, getting people knowing what's happening, passing out food, passing out toys, making sure that folks have everything that they need. It's a holiday season, trying to make sure that we work with the communities that can come out. So yeah, it's good times out here on the streets right now.
Awesome.
I'm
Awesome.
about to head to an action right now. So after we leave here.
Okay. I love that, and good luck with that. Hey, could you share with our viewers how they can get involved, how they can if they're in Georgia and they need to
Hmm.
vote, if they're outside of Georgia, if
Hmm.
there's absentee voting available, the dates and all of that. So share all the information you can with us,
Yeah,
please.
sure. So, if folks want to get involved in helping, like if they want to come virtually, we have all kinds of things. You can phone bank, you can text bank, you can join the EP hotline where you answer calls from voters who need help. If you want to do that, the best way to reach out to me is to contact me on Twitter, and then I will like follow up with you via email and connect you that way. So my email, or excuse me, my Twitter is at Mrs. W N D C. That's MRSDUBYAINDC. And so, yeah, hit me up and I'll make sure that folks get connected to the volunteer structure. I'm currently managing all of the folks coming in from out of states and from organizations. So there's hundreds of people who are reaching out, and we still need hundreds of people to go. So, yeah, folks can just hit me up and we'll make sure and get out there. Also, go to New Georgia Project, the website, and like see where you can plug in, and we can get connected that way too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ria. Viewers, the links will be in the description. It
Thank
has been
you.
such a pleasure talking with you today, and I'm looking forward to the results of these elections. So thanks
Thank
so much for
you. Have a
being
good
with
day.
me. You have a good one too. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye.